Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. It is I, once again, screaming into the void of the internet. So I have something I want to talk about. I saw a little reel on Instagram of Low Tier God. He's basically talking about like debate with Nibbas and talking about the issues and like the black community, but he talks about it in a grand sense about like debate in a nutshell, as well as like why he finds debate useless. And funnily enough, I'm not really the biggest fan of the guy, but I do kind of agree with the sentiment on debate. Because you see, something that I've noticed, at least how I've always understood it, is debates are they usually just devolve into just this content crap, like everyone's trying to be like, oh, aha, I got ya, instead of trying to hear out the other side. And I don't get it twisted. There are just some other sides that are just very extreme, but even then, I still try and give them the benefit of the doubt. And can you honestly say, that you've seen a debate that hasn't just devolved into, two adults or more just screaming at each other, yelling insults, and trying to act all snarky and whatnot, trying to say, oh, I got you, like, I've always felt like debate is just a complete time waste, because it's like both of you are standing on your position, and that's fine. I think you shouldn't be so easily swayed in life. I don't think you should just be, going with the waves, so to speak, and, you're wishy-washy, and you're just this milquetoast cocksucker who can't stand on anything because you want to be everybody's friend, and you have to accept that you're not going to be everyone's friend, right? So, you should stand on some kind of foundation. I think that is important. People should know where you stand on things. But it shouldn't be to the extent where you can't hear an opposing view out peacefully. I'm not going to say no matter how extreme. Again, there are limitations. But when you can't hear an opposing view, then you become very closed-minded. And if you become very closed-minded, you can't really progress anywhere. It's just destined to stagnate in some kind of capacity. Not that, again, I'm some super progressive. I'm just saying, speaking, right? And, of course, like, for me, discussion is kind of the opposite, Both parties have reasons why they stand on what they stand for. They say, hey, let's get together and let's discuss why we stand on it and see if we can gather something from each other. Because, like, I've never really enjoyed... Like, you see, I'm a very mellow person, okay? I'm very quiet and reserved, but I'm observant. And so when I've always looked at people arguing, in whatever facet it's been, whether it's been a Bible study at church, whether it's been high school nonsense at, like, obviously high school, like, places of work. Like, when I see adults arguing over, like, the dumbest crap, it's just... What are you gaining from this debate? Like, both of you have basically just essentially admitted in a very short amount of time that this is why I stand on this, you're a jackass because you don't agree. Like, what's the point of that? Like, who does that really benefit? Like, if you don't really care to improve, air quotes, improve, I shouldn't say improve, let's say expand, okay? Expand your thought, neither one of you do. Why keep talking? Like, what do you have to gain here? And you see every instance where this happens, because listen, someone might be thinking, oh, well, you're clearly just talking about the left. Absolutely not. I'm talking about, like, people in general, especially Nibbas on the right. What is his name? Tucker Carlson, that's what I call him. Like, I've listened to people that even before, like, I guess Doomer was a thing. Something that I found one of these days, not these days, like recently, I'm talking like years ago, there was this group called, I'm sure that they're still around. Was it like a voluntary human extinction movement? And I discussed things with these people. Not because, like, I agree, but I am someone who, again, likes to expand my thinking. I like to hear ideas that a lot of people might consider extreme. And so I listen to them, and I listen to their reasons, and some of them, I'm not going to say all of them, have good reasons, okay? Some of them have good reasons. But in typical fashion, any kind of group that starts attracting attention is almost destined to have someone invite them on a talk show. And what do they do on this talk show? Do they try and listen to them? Do they try and hear their viewpoint? Nope. They try and make a complete fool of them and slander them and do this because they're trying to get under their skin on national television, because if this sucker, lashes out, oh, look at the representation for that community. Because that's all it really is. It's just about trying to get under the other person's skin, make them overreact, and essentially paint a massive image of the community that, hey, you're all bastards and no one should take you seriously, And, like, I remember Cucker talking to the person who was, one of the founders of that. And, like, he was just, in typical condescending Cucker. Oh, how unhappy was your childhood, like this, that, and the other. He didn't really give him a reason to stand on what he is. And, when he said he was basically, like, against the government, he's like, oh, well, obviously you are. Like, you can find that for yourself. If you, like I said, I don't remember the guy's name because I don't follow the group like that. But back when I, discussed things, that's something that stuck out with me. Just how easily people, even people who try and give you the moral high ground crap. Because listen, don't get it twisted. Whether it's the left or the right, they both think they're on the moral high ground. And this cunt, he's just being an arsehole to them. And then it's not only that, but it was also something along the lines of again, Cucker. Not that I'm trying to make this Cucker based. He said along the lines of like, oh, men aren't men until like they man up and take responsibility for a woman and stuff like that. I'm like, what? How does that? Either you're a man or you're not. Like, I don't care about stuff like that. Like, maybe you're like, again, some freaking dumb arse that can afford to like get divorce raped because you have millions of bucks, but plenty of guys don't. So one divorce rape and they're sleeping under bridges if they're lucky. If they don't blow their brains out or put on that mask and smoke someone else, and then take care of themselves, if they do that at all. They might just go ahead and go with the, prison time retirement plan. Because, hey, they'll get paid. They'll get taken care of, for the rest of their lives, and we'll be paying for them. So, some guys choose that. But in typical fashion, someone like Cucker, opposing viewpoint, I won't hear it. I am the moral superiority, right? And that's usually how a lot of debates are, I am the person who is correct, you are the person incorrect. Why can't we just discuss things peaceably? You don't have to agree to get along with someone. You don't have to agree to expand your thinking. You know what I'm saying? Like, my best friend, when we talk, something that he'll always say is usually, what is it? He's saying, and it's not that I'm disagreeing with it. I'm like, listen, you can disagree with me. You're a different person. You don't have to agree with me. I love him to death. We mean it jokingly. Because listen, we've disagreed plenty of times on things, but we do it peaceably. Because listen, like I said, you don't have to agree with me. No one has to agree with me. A video that I made just recently, talking about like hookers and stuff. Like, there's some people in the comments saying, "Hey, well, I don't agree. It's about validation and success and love, and you're just cheating if you get a hooker." Like, paying for a service is cheating. So I don't expect people to agree with you. You're just one person in an ocean of people. In an ocean of, unfortunately, NPCs. And you'll find some individuals there, and they'll formulate their own opinions instead of just agreeing with absolutely everything that everyone else does. Because, listen, I don't like that when you do talk about, like, things like this, when you do talk about discussions and debates, people try and, like, group you into something. I don't try and categorize people. I try not to very hard. I'm not going to pretend like I'm perfect in it. Unfortunately, we do start categorizing each other because it's damn near unavoidable. Especially when people are just so freaking NPCs. Like, they're just wokeified NPCs, and they just refuse to think for themselves. Like, if you give them reasons as to why you don't stand on something with them, they look at you stupid. Like, oh, well, the data says, and the data is a Google search. I searched it for 1 second, and look at the top of the engine. And you say, well, listen, did you know that Google is a paid-for service, and whoever pays them the most money, that's whose freaking research gets there. So is it really on truth evidence, or is it really who has the most money? And whoever has the most money usually has a certain narrative that they're spinning. Does Coca-Cola do effed up things with the data that they collect on their customers? That's pretty much a given. Will Coca-Cola admit to that? Probably not. Same with Google and stuff like that. So if you were to tell someone, hey, listen, I don't just trust you just because you said, hey, listen, look at the data that I found because I Googled one thing and I didn't, I don't even accredit the studies and the universities, and we don't know the thinking of these people. But you should trust me. Like, they can't understand why you just wouldn't just be blind enough to just agree with them on, well, I Google searched something and so you should trust me. It's just, it's really stupid. And this is kind of one of the things, like, I've noticed that maturity like, I'm gonna say this. Like, I do understand why people don't like too much maturity and they just kind of don't want to grow up or something. But I do think that, there is a balance. I do think we should have a bit more fun and stuff like that. But when it comes down to, like, certain adult things, just adult up, adult up for a sec. Because, again, people don't have to agree. You don't have to, like, be on positive terms about the opinions that other people have. But if it's stuff, I can listen. I can listen to some very odd stuff that a lot of people will, like, dismiss. I've listened to a lot of wokies. I've listened to some of these weirdos that are, taking the dog pill, the animal pill, air quotes. I'm not really into the pill stuff, but I'm sure you can understand what I mean by that, right? I can listen to them, and even if I can't fully grasp it, I can, say, hey, well, listen, you may feel that way about this, but at the same time, you're kind of screwing yourself over. And so, I'm not gonna make it too. No, I don't want to talk about that too much because I don't want to make that, the premise of this video or something like that. But I'm trying to prove a point here: is that putting yourself on a moral high ground and just trying to shame someone else and say that they are wrong and you are right, usually, to me, seems to indicate that a lot of people are very close-minded. And whilst you do have a right to be close-minded, and whilst I do think that you should have a kind of foundation that you stand on, you're not so easily swayed, it shouldn't completely inhibit your ability to hear someone else's opinion and viewpoint and try and say, hey, what about this can we take and kind of add to ourselves? Do they have something that we're missing, in a sense, Because there are a lot of things that I've taken over the course of my life that, come from different beliefs and stuff like that, come from different viewpoints, And unfortunately, a lot of people don't really feel like that, Like right now, because of a lot of things going on, like you're in a massive, air quotes, culture war, like, and a lot of people are bringing up stuff like race and stuff like that. And listen, this is coming from me, and I'm basically Uncle Ruckus about nibbas. I can't stand them, but I'm also not going to be stupid enough to say that, like, they're absolutely everything wrong with the problem. It's mainly the ratchets, it's mainly the ratchets, and the fact that all of these idiots are breeding. And if there was some kind of punishment to, like, I guess, like, if you made bad kids and you could get locked up too, then that would certainly, that would certainly stop that, wouldn't it? You got to wonder about stuff like that. Parenting license, please. I can't say it enough. Parenting license, please. But I don't know, man. I feel like too many of us get into a habit where our ego starts acting up and we can't accept the possibility that we could be wrong and that this person who we don't like could ever be right, Because listen, as I say, a broken clock is correct twice a day. There are going to be instances where even someone that you don't like might have a bit of facts that they spit. And you shouldn't be angry that they spit facts. If they spit facts, then that should at least indicate that, somewhat, like, there's somewhat of a method to their madness, Because, listen, I'm not going to pretend like people that I disagree with that I'm, always on good terms or anything. I'm not going to be stupid enough to say that, but I don't look at them as lesser than me. I don't look at them as lesser than me because they stand on a viewpoint of mine that differs spiritually or politically or ethically. I don't, depending on what it is, obviously. Again, you should have limits. You should have grounds that you stand on. If you're diddling, then yeah, you know what I think. If you're doing effed up stuff like politically and that affects millions of people, then yeah, you know where I stand on. But if it's just someone that say, well, I lean more towards this side and this is the reason for it, hey, that's a valid reason, Even if I don't fully understand, it's a valid reason. Because, again, we're two different people. Two different brains, essentially, shaped by the experiences that we have encountered through our lives. And we responded to them. And how I responded, it's not how you're going to respond, and vice versa. And if only people could take the time to understand that, I feel like we would, I'm not going to say kumbaya, get along, but we'd at least be a bit more tame with the fact that, okay, listen, this person thinks the way that they do because of this, but that doesn't mean that, that view that they're thinking is incorrect. It's just their view. But unfortunately, a lot of people, even as I say this, they don't really think like that. They think a lot more on the sheep mentality, They look around and they listen, like, you can do tests of this. Like, you can do this in real time. Like, people did tests, like, hey, listen, let's do, like, 2 plus 2. And then everyone's going to say the answer is 5. And these people will literally start just saying, yeah, this is 5. Even they know it's wrong, but because everyone's saying it's 5, they're going to do it. Because the herd mentality in a lot of people just cannot handle being individuals. They can't handle being the odd one out. And to fit in, they will literally knowingly do something that they know is wrong. And if it's something as minor about that, like, just imagine the big stuff, over the course of human history. Just imagine the really effed up stuff that humanity has done, And people don't like hearing about that. And I'll give you an example. I was speaking to a woman, earlier today, and she was talking about, the rise of misogyny. And I said, what do you define misogyny? Humor me for a minute. What do you define misogyny as? You're like, anything essentially indicating that women are lesser than, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay. And what do you mean by that? Fully, because in a lot of instances, what I have noticed is a lot of women who say that there's a rise of misogyny are usually inflating it to the fact that men are realizing that, no, women are not, somehow the nicer human being. They are just the female human being. And human beings, whether you are a male or a female, sorry everyone else, you're crap out of luck. There's nothing else. Whether you are a male or a female, we're equally ripe. We've effed up the world, we've effed up history for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So I hate to break it to you, but this sugar sweet, sugar and spice, everything nice, that's nonsense. And she has not responded to me after I said that. Because in typical fashion, like a lot of chicks right now, like, misogyny is just anything that I don't like that comes from men. And she looks like the typical raging feminist, so, unfortunately, ugly, colored hair, vibrant, all that good stuff, so. Why did I talk to her? I have no clue, but I guess I just said humor me, for a minute. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just a shame that people are so quick to just come to a conclusion like this side is just completely incorrect and cannot be correct under any circumstances merely because I do not like them. It's a bit silly to me. It's a bit silly. Like I said, let's stand on foundation, let's stand on grounds, but it shouldn't stop us from hearing other viewpoints, Because you'll start hearing a lot of extreme stuff. They can't help it. It's their culture. Bullcrap. That's why you need to hear, other things. That's like me saying, I am just destined to rob a convenience store because I'm a Blizzax, a nibba. I am just destined to speak with Ebonics because I am a nibba. It's my culture. No, that's ridiculous. You have access to all this information. You have access to all of this history. You can choose to expand your mind with this knowledge and take what you will of it, discard what you will of it. I wouldn't recommend discarding things. I think you should always take. Not necessarily add it on, but remember. Even the stuff that you don't like to remember, remember, because you never know when that's going to come in handy, And trust, when I read about, like, some of this stuff in history and that happened, it's not pretty, but it gives me a very good reason not to trust the state. Very good reason not to really trust people. Because, hey, I know better. I've looked at history, and history tells me that this isn't going to happen. Yeah, because a whole bunch of y'all don't study history, so you're going to repeat it. And I would rather not be anywhere near you when that happens. Kind of is what it is. But I think I would just go ahead and cut this rambling here, I'll cut it here. I think what I might talk about next is something that I noticed in, I guess to just give you a little bit of glimpse about what I'm going to talk about next. I looked up, and not just Google. Okay, I kind of looked this up for a minute. The unemployment rate on average throughout America. And it said that at least 70% plus of men of the age to work are unemployed in America. 70% of men. And I was like, interesting. So how is the economy running? That's right, all the freaking invaders. And diversity hires, good old freaking HR, those cunts. screwing over all your... Because listen, I refuse to believe that all these guys are... They just say that they're not looking for work. I call bullcrap on that, dude. Like, when I'm talking to some of these NEETs and stuff like that, like, all of them are saying, listen, I'm trying to find work, but they just... I don't look at it like... they don't look consistently, because it's like, what's the freaking point? They know that they're not going to get the job, and you could apply to 20 a day, and you're still not going to... You're lucky to hear a no, like... So, that's kind of what I'm probably going to talk about next, but it's just a little bit of something to think about. 70%. So all the invaders are here, doing the jobs that you're supposed to be doing, that you shouldn't have to compete with them for, and then you got diversity hire, where they don't want to hire you because, oh, you're a white male. Oh, you're a male in general, so... Yeah, it don't make no goddamn sense. Freaking employing someone whose long-arse fingernails stop them from wiping their arse. Are you kidding me? It makes no sense, but... I'm not going to get too deep into that. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. Hope you guys enjoyed. God bless. I'll see you in the next one.